it's just Martine, and today we're going to talk about my April reading statistics. April was a pretty good reading month for me. I'm actually really excited to sit with you and talk about what happened in April reading-wise for me, because I actually made up for a lot of the things that I feel like I did in my March reading, which feels good, reflecting back on it. I feel happy about that. So we're going to start with some general statistics, and then we'll get into some fun graphs. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's go. In the month of April, I read 32 books. That is not as many as last month, but that is easily explained by every other statistic in this month's wrap up. The first being that my total number of pages read this month was 10,545, which is more than last month. So even though I read 32 books, they were bigger books and more average pages per day. My average pages per day being 351.5, which is 30 pages more per day than last month, and my average page count for books being 329.53, which is almost 50 pages longer than the books last month. So we got after it. Every month I also usually share what Bookly says I read, because that's actually more accurate than what this spreadsheet tells me, because this is all the books I finished in the month, and I usually carry over books this month. Not in May, but that was a weird thing that will never ever happen again. So in April, Bookly tells me that I read like 9,024 pages in actuality, and I read for a total of 102 hours, which does not include my 2 Magic Treehouse books, but you know, it's close. Basically 102 hours. My most read genre this month was mystery. And that's interesting for a couple reasons. One, there is not a single other month in which that has been the case. For the past 2 months, my top genre was adventure. And then in January, it was romance. So for it to be mystery feels like, boom, out of nowhere. Except it's not out of nowhere because of my obsession with Riverdale. So then I went into a bit of reading slump, and I was like, well, what would I want to read? And I was like, something like Riverdale. So I've been reading a lot of mystery and thriller books to try and get that vibe. Hence, my most read genre this month was mystery. My books with representation was 17 out of 32, which has been worse in the past, particularly last month again. So that's one of the things that improved. Good. I was horrified about that statistic last month. And then authors that I've read from before was only 8. Which is largely because I didn't binge any series really this month. In a typical month, I feel like I only read from authors I've never read from before. The exception is when I read a ton of books in series, and then we get a big pile up of authors who I have indeed read from before. All right, I think it's time to jump into some graphs, so I'm a scooch. Let's start with genre. Again, we knew mystery was the biggest slice of that pie, but what's interesting, because mystery and thriller are rated as separate genres on my spreadsheet, is that if you add the 2 slices of the pie that are mystery and thriller, it's almost a third of the pie. So do with that information what you will. The other 2 highest genres were sci-fi and nonfiction, which is good because those were my team genres for Realmathon. So is it great that they're not the biggest categories? Obviously not, but listen, I was in my mystery mood, and let's hope that continues into May. You'll find out why soon. And then we have a really wide spread of other things with, yes, adventure only coming in at, I thought it said 8.5, but I can't see, 6.5%, which is so much better than last month, because last month adventure was 38.2%. That was too high for me. So this feels a lot better. Next, book size, another huge win this month, because last month I basically swapped the percentage for small and medium here. So this month I read more medium than small books. Yes. And in this tracker, medium starts at 300. So 300 to 500 pages is medium. And then I did sneak a couple large reads in literally at the end of the month. I had 2 over 500 page reads at the very end of the month. So I snuck those large ones in there barely. I'm much more pleased with how this chart is looking this month. Next, star ratings. This one is a bit of a mixed bag because in March I had no 5 stars, but I also feel like I have lower overall ratings, than March, because in March I feel like I gave lots of 4 stars, and here we gave lots of 3.5, 3s, 2.5, some 2s. Yeah, looking back at my March graph, 45% was 4 stars. Here was only 21%, so we did get some 5 stars, but then we got more meh books as a result, in a balancing act type of way. But still, the majority of them 3 stars or above, and most of them actually 3.5 stars and above. I can live with that, especially if I get, was it 3 5-star reads? 4 5-star reads. I'll take that. I will take that. For series versus standalone, in the same way that the authors were mainly new authors here, it's mainly standalones here. This is another one of those charts that almost directly flipped from last month. So about 2/3 of it last month was series, 1/3 of it standalone. We have the reverse this month with about 2/3 of it standalone, about 1/3 of it series. That's on that. Not much to say about it. Since I'm not in the middle of too many series, like I'm still in the middle of like 17 series, but compared to some people, that's a tiny amount. So I'm fine with having more standalones and series, especially if that means I'm not starting series. Also, most of the series here that I did read were starts and DNFs of series. So I still mark it as part of a series. Even if I don't plan on continuing the rest of the series, then I just mark it as DNF series. So that is some of what's happening in series. For age range, I was so happy about this graph when I made it this morning. 78% adult books. Yes. I do think it's going to swing more into YA as we enter the summer months, because that's the time of year for me to read YA contemporary, which is one of my favorite genres of all time and the only type that I write when I write for fun. So that's probably going to grow, and children's will grow a little because it's a month where we have 4 Magic Tree House reads for the Magic Tree House read along instead of 2. All in all, I'm really happy with how many adult books I read this month, especially because that contributed to the number of medium to long books that I read as opposed to short books. For author gender, another huge win. Last month, it was almost a majority written by men, which is not how I like to have my reading. So this month, we're back to 21.9% written by men. I feel that's an acceptable amount. A couple unspecified author genders, and then some written by multiple people, with 65.6% being written by women, which is probably why I had no 5 stars in March, but several in April. Just saying. Next, for format, there were just so many wins in this month of reading. Here's another one. So, slightly less than 50% ebook, and I tried my 100 pages of physical book reading a day for a week challenge. I'll try to link it there, which definitely helped boost the physical a little, but also made me fine with the amount of ebook that's here. But I am just really proud of the 31.3% physical books that I read, both library and owned. I was happy about that. And I do think that contributes to the number of medium to large books that I read this month, because oftentimes when I read ebooks, they end up being very short books, whereas almost all of my physical books are at least over 300 pages. For publication date, majority backlist. That's usual for me. I did sneak in some new releases and some from last year, which is good, but I do want to keep it majority backlist. So many books already exist, so why not read them? And then finally, with acquired, again, another win. So 59.4% library, good. It is over half, but I'm happy with it. I'm coming to terms with that fact now. I don't know why I was giving myself grief about it before. Owned ebook, 6.3%. I'd like that to be a little higher next month, but at least it's not 0. Those were my Magic Tree House reads. I think I read one singular NetGalley book. Let's get that up next month because I have some that I need to read. I'm working on a NetGalley reading vlog right now, so hopefully that should help. And then 25%, 1/4 of the books I read were owned physical books. That's so much better than last month. If you were wondering, last month I read 2 owned physical books, and this month I read 8. So I literally quadrupled the number of physical owned books that I read. I'm so pleased with that. Go me. So just short and sweet, those were my stats for the month of April. I know most people do quarterly updates for stats, but I missed the boat on that in March. So now I'm going to do a third of the year update, so stay tuned for that. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. How was your reading month in April? What are your reading plans for May? And subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!